Before you ask anything, no, you're not misreading this title. YouTube has loosened its content moderation policies, and it's not a joke. They really have loosened their content moderation policies, maybe for the worse. So if you don't know me, I'm Jake, or Jakescape, as you know on YouTube, and today I'm kind of going to go over why this laxing on the content moderation policies by YouTube is not a overall good thing. And really, once you see some of the things that YouTube is now going to allow, it is kind of harmful to the platform, in my opinion. Now, to start, YouTube says they are relaxing the moderation policies. Now, if the video that violates the rules is better for the public interest than not, and if they don't violate the rules more than 50% of the video, which used to be a quarter or 25% of the video. This applies to, as you see in this section here, discussions about elections, ideologies, movements, race, gender, sexuality, abortion, immigration, censorship, and more. Now, they say this started to happen before the 2024 US election, but I never really noticed too much of it, and I don't think anyone else really noticed too much of it either. Maybe Hassan Piker, but I don't know for the most part. And as you see down in this section here, it really applies to political candidates who violate the community guidelines, but have the exception if it's educational, documentary, scientific, and artistic content. Now, additionally, as this section demonstrates here, the platform told moderators they should remove content if, quote, freedom of expression value may outweigh harm risk. So, what does that mean exactly? Basically, as this article says, this new rule and laxing on the content moderation mainly applies to people who put out political information, scientific information, or other form of content along those lines where they might violate the the policies that YouTube does have in place to prevent like harmful and hateful things. But if they only do it once or twice in the video, it is considered fine as long as it's not malicious or with bad faith intent. And even some misinformation now can be fine. This first sentence of the final paragraph here really shows off what I mean here. And it says, quote, this practice allows us to prevent, for example, an hours long news podcast from being removed from showing one short clip of violence. And they say they're regularly updating their guidance and their moderation policy and everything on how to keep this content clean and fair and on the platform. But I'm not going to lie to you, the second half of this whole article, it doesn't really make me feel super hopeful that this change is for the better. As you can see in the top paragraph here, it talks about how YouTube changed its policies against misinformation against Trump's first term when COVID was happening and it was really bad and misinformation was everywhere. And they would basically remove videos if they thought they had bad COVID misinformation or other bad medical misinformation. Later on in that paragraph, though, it talks about how YouTube eventually, as they say in 2023, stepped back on removing certain election fraud lies, and it kind of shows that they were trying to relax on moderation even then, kind of weighing off of it after a couple of years. And also gives the example that Meta also changed its policy surrounding hate speech and fact checking to do more of the X Styles community notes, which is really dumb in my opinion, because I love the community notes sometimes, but community notes can be weaponized in a violent and bad way. Now, this does come in the midst of Google getting sued by the Justice Department and might be having to give up Chrome. So their changing of their policies and being a little more lax, especially to the Trump and the Trump admin, about things that are certainly going on, it could be trying to signal that they want the Justice Department to let them off the hook because Donald Trump and the Justice Department have been known to help companies out if they start donating or if they start bending the knee to the campaign or to their administration and allowing them to really say what they want and do what they want without any form of moderation or backlash. Not mentioned in the article at all, though, is the parent company of Google and YouTube by virtue, Alphabet. If you don't know, Alphabet actually owns multiple groups. It's one of the most profitable companies in the past few years since it was created. I believe 10 years ago, actually. You'll have to fact check me on that, but that is the parent company, and they're not specifically listed here. Obviously, the parent company is not always going to be listed, but it's very interesting that amidst the Google controversy, Alphabet is never once spoken about, considering that they own Google and by association YouTube. In this long paragraph here, it really shows off the examples of what they mean according to the times, and it shows how RFK Jr., the Health and Human Secretary, was making videos about COVID vaccine policies amongst with other vaccine policies in I believe it was either a video or a podcast, which blatantly violated the YouTube's policy about medical misinformation. But they allowed it to stay up on their platform because the interest, quote, outweighs the harm risk. They also say immediately after in the brackets here that the video has since been taken off the platform, but the Times says the reasoning behind this is unclear. I think that is probably because they saw that it was just so blatantly bad misinformation. They even couldn't allow that. They had to take that off because it was so bad. But that's just another example that they're kind of bending the knee to the president, who really shouldn't be able to make them do this. But of course, they have that type of authoritative power to kind of influence them in the country. And another example is in this final part of the paragraph where it says a 43-minute video about a Trump cabinet appointee that violated the harassment rules on YouTube by saying a slur that targets transgender people. But because it only happened once in the video, YouTube didn't feel like taking it down because the public interest was, again, outweighed by the harm risk. They felt like it was better to keep it up despite the slur being in there because the interest by the public was there. But YouTube's kind of showing off the hypocrisy almost in this final paragraph here, where YouTube told reviewers to leave a video of South Korea that mentioned putting their former president, who was in charge of their country for the past couple of years, who also initiated the martial law, which triggered his removal from office, into a guillotine. They say that, to quote, the wish for execution by guillotine is not feasible, but that's still a direct call for violence. And while what he did is certainly reprehensible, I don't know if allowing a video that says they want to guillotine him should be staying up. It certainly wouldn't stay up had it been about Donald Trump or other European presidents or former presidents, but it's a weird tread line, and I don't know if many YouTubers know where the line really lays at and when you can cross and not cross. Because it seems like if you make one mistake in a video, if I say something really bad once in a video that is, say, 10 or 15 minutes long, the video will be fine. YouTube won't do anything to the video, and maybe they might even still recommend it on the feed. But who knows what could really happen at this point. Now, this article came out today, June 9th, so it's not like we really have much to go off of. This is really the only article I've seen on it so far. And it's 10:11 p.m. for me right now, so this video won't go out till the day after, but it's still unclear what this really could mean in the long term for YouTube. Will content moderation get lighter and easier, and will worse actors be able to come to the platform and put up content that probably shouldn't be on here? Who knows? Maybe they could, maybe they won't. This policy for loosening the content moderation, it seems more targeted towards political action rather than the average YouTuber and content creator, because I don't think there's a single way, if I were to say that the COVID vaccine causes brain cancer, that I wouldn't just immediately be just like taken off the recommended feed. I wouldn't just instantly have the video blacklisted or even removed for blatant medical misinformation. So like I said, this is still unwinding, and we'll have to see what you can and can't put on YouTube still, if this really affects the average YouTuber or content creator, but we won't know until then, so I guess we'll have to stick around and find out. To end this video off, if you are new to the channel and want to see more content, maybe not like this, but just more content in general and future uploads, consider subscribing and leaving a like, and hopefully I see you everyone in the next video. Bye bye, be good people.